Welcome back. In our next video tutorial, we're going to create a method to create a new layer. So let's get started. Let's call this method as create layer, and also the command method is also create layer. So we'll be using the same thing as what we've done for the list layer. We need to have this DB object. Just copy that over. We also need to create a transaction. So let's copy this over and then just delete the code that we don't need. So now we have the scaffolding for our new method. Now we can start creating the logic for this method name here. So the objective is to create a new layer that doesn't exist yet in the AutoCAD layer database. The layer that we're going to create is, let me just put a comment here, create a new layer called MISC for miscellaneous. So the very first thing that we should do is to validate if this layer already exists. So you remember this one here, we need to have a hold of the layer table. So we can do that by using an if statement. So if from ly tab has the layer MISC, then we'll basically just inform the user that the layer already exists. So we can do that by using the doc.editor, that write message, then say layer already exists, and then we abort the transaction. Alright, so however, if the layer doesn't exist yet, we can put here an else statement. This is now we write the code to create a new layer. So we can do that by first opening up the layer table to upgrade open. This one here, because we are changing the database, we are basically adding a new layer table, a new layer table record. So now we need to create a variable that will hold the layer table record. So we can do that by, let's say, LTR, layer table record, as LYTR, same as the previous one here, as layer table record equals new layer table record. Okay, now we can specify the name of the layer. So lytr dot name, that would be equal to MISC, because this is the layer name that we're going to create. And then we can specify the color. So this is where we can use the color namespace here. We can do that by typing in color.from, let's use the from color index, and then color method by layer, and then we specify the color index number, which is red, which is 1. Okay, and now we need to add this layer table record into the layer table. So we do that by typing in ly tab dot add lytr, and of course we have to add also in the transaction. That is the newly created DB object, and we have to make sure that we add in the transaction, otherwise it will not be effective. Now we can set the new layer as the current layer. So we can do that by using the DB object that C layer, which is the current layer that would be coming from the ly tab, the MISC, and then we can advise or inform the user that the new layer was created successfully. So layer, let's say lytr.name was created successfully. And then of course we have the commit transaction here. Okay, so it's quite straightforward. All we need to do basically is open up the layer table and create a new variable for the layer table record and specify the layer properties like the name, the color, and you can try some other properties here like line type, and then add it into the layer table and add in the transaction and set to be the current layer and display the message to the user. So let us save our project and do a rebuild. Succeeded. Now let us load in AutoCAD. Make sure that you have a new instance of AutoCAD. You close the previous one and open a new one so that your latest code will be loaded properly. So net load and select the plugin. Always load. Now we should have two layer methods that we created. The first one is the list layers, and now the second one is create layer. But before I execute that, let's first check if there is a MISC layer already. So there is no MISC layer. So once we run our plugin, we should see another layer called MISC in here. Let's close this and create layer. There you go. So create layer, layer MISC was created successfully. So if we check now the layer, we have the MISC, which is now the current layer with the color of red. Okay, so play around with this, try to specify some other properties and see how it goes. In the next video, we're going to create another method to update the existing layer. I'll see you there.